This is chapter 12. We're going to show you a two-proportion confidence interval, ICCI. Alright, so for this lesson, you're going to need to know a few things. You should already know N, it is your sample size. And you should already know P as well, and that's just going to be your percentage or proportion. The new thing in this lesson is going to be P hat, which is just this little triangle over the P. And that is going to be your proportion of your sample size, or of N. And to find that, it's just going to be your number of successes out of your total. You also need to know what P hat sub 1 is. That is going to be referring to the number of successes out of the total for your first population. And same thing is going to be applied to P hat sub 2. That is also number of successes out of the total of your second population. And that's pretty much everything you need to know prior to going into this lesson. Alright, so we're going to do a two-proportion confidence interval using table C. To do so, you're going to need the formula P hat 1 minus P hat 2 plus or minus your Z star multiplied by your standard error, or SE. To find your standard error, you're going to use the formula square root of P hat 1 times 1 minus P hat of 1 over N1 plus P hat 2 times 1 minus P hat of 2. All that is over N of 2. And of course, N is going to be your sample size in each situation, for each proportion. And then to find Z star, you're going to use table C. Alright, so to find your Z star, you're going to want to use your statistics textbook or table C that Coach Kemp has provided for you. And your textbook is in the back cover. See that? Table C. And you're going to use your Z star, which means this bottom line right here. And we are going to use a 99% confidence interval for our problem that we're going to do. So we're going to go to Z star, 99% confidence interval, and right there is our Z star.
Some abnormalities and criminality. Examined data from 4,124 males born in Copenhagen. Each man was classified as having a criminal record or not. Using the registers maintained in local police offices, each was also classified as having the normal male XY chromosome pair, one of the abnormalities, XYY, or XXY. Of the 4,096 men with the normal chromosomes, 381 had criminal records, while 8 of the 28 men with normal chromosomes had criminal records. Some experts believe chromosome abnormalities are associated with increased criminality. Construct and interpret a 95% confidence interval, the difference in proportions.
Alright, so the first I in ICCI is for identifying everything. Your population, your parameter, your null hypothesis, and your alternative hypothesis. For this question, population, and our parameter is going to be the true difference in proportions of criminality, to mean normal minus abnormal. Your null hypothesis, or your HO, is going to be that proportion 1 is equal to proportion 2. In other words, there is no difference. Your alternative hypothesis, or your HA, is that proportion 1 is less than proportion 2. In other words, there's a greater proportion in chromosome abnormalities, and that's your first I in ICCI. Okay, so for the first C, you're going to want to use your conditions. First, you need to state the test or interval you're using. For instance, we are using a 2-proportion Z confidence interval, and conditions for that are going to be random, normal, and independent. Okay, and for random, we're actually not told that it's random in this problem. You sometimes will be, but proceed with caution. As far as being normal goes, we're going to have to make sure that for both populations or proportions, we're going to use n times p hat of 1 is greater than or equal to 10, and n times 1 minus p hat sub 1 is greater than or equal to 10, as well as n times p hat sub 2 and n times 1 minus p hat sub 2. You're going to want to go ahead and calculate all of that out, but it does work in this problem. Independent, we're going to make sure that the population, we want it to be greater than 10 times the sample size, and in this problem it also is. So there is basically your first C for your ICCI. Alright, so the second C in your ICCI is where you're going to put your calculations. We showed you the formula earlier, and then that is going to end up being 0.093 minus 0.2857 plus or minus your Z star, which in table C you'll find is 1.96 times 0.093 times 1 minus 0.093 all over 4096 plus 0.2857 times 1 minus 0.2857, running out of room here, over 28. And that is actually going to come out to your confidence interval of, when you subtract here, negative 0.3603 to, when you add, negative 0.0251. And that's going to be your confidence interval. For your second I in your ICCI and the final step, you basically are just going to explain what you mean by 95% confidence interval. And for this problem, you say we are 95% confident that the true difference in proportion of criminality is going to be normal minus abnormal of all males born in Copenhagen is between negative 0.3603 and negative 0.0251. And I apologize for my handwriting this entire time. Now that you know how to do confidence interval, you're going to want to make sure to practice plenty, because this is going to be on the AP exam. And thank you for watching.